Hello everyone, welcome back to Streaming Alchemy. I'm John Mahoney, and on today's show, we're going to look at how you can create a progress bar across the bottom of your screen for different types of things you may want to provide the audience with some sort of timed feedback or percentage complete feedback. And if you've seen progress bars, they are sort of a thin little bar that just moves from left to right across the screen and usually has some sort of percentage indicator that tells you how much has transpired in whatever it is that you're waiting for that is going on right now. So we'll get into that in a moment, but before we do, I want to invite everybody, if you have any questions, any comments, just post them and we'll try to get to them here during the show. And if you'd like to join us live on the show, we have a link in the show notes, and if you click on that, somebody would be able to get you here on air with us, and we can have a face-to-face conversation. So probably the best place to start would be for me to show you an example of what it is we're looking to do here with the progress bar. So in vMix over here, I have my output that has a video that I'm going to show. And when I set this up here, let me actually go full screen on the video here. So if I go here and say, let's just play this now, if you'll notice across the bottom of the screen, I now have a bar that's moving across that's showing the percentage of this video that has been played at this point. And this is actually working off of a list. So anything that we do, so if I take, so this is finished now, that goes away. Let me just pick another video. So let me see, this video is actually 11 seconds. So this would be a fast one, but I do the same thing now. You can see the bar is moving across more quickly, and it's just giving you this percentage completion feedback across the bottom. So that's what we're going to be covering today. We'll go through the scripts and the way we have the vMix preset organized to do this. So before that, I just see Biz Shorty joined us. So Biz, thank you very much. Always good to see you here. So let's start first by looking at the vMix session. It's really a pretty simple session. We have in the first input here is just a list. So if you look, I'm just changing what's in the list, but this is, if I just show you here, these are just the 4 videos we have in this list. And so that's what we were flipping through in the beginning to just show the overlay bar. So the overlay bar is actually composed of 2 different GT titles. So, one title and one image. So the first image is this bar. So a little hard to see, but it's got this red underline and then a semi-transparent component right above that, which is sort of what tracks across the screen over the playing video. And then corresponding to that, we have a title that has the percentage display in it. So if you look at this, oh, sorry, let me just click here. If you look at this, you can see I just have this number here at the end, which is sort of defaults to 100%, but we update that via scripting as we go through this. And that's part of what goes on the overlay. And this overlay, which we call progress bar, is pretty much a transparent background. So this is just an image, and it has the bar on the bottom and then the progress counter that's laid on top of that. So when you see the 2 of these together, you can sort of see there's the semi-transparent overlay, the little red bar across the bottom, and that 100% now shows up there. So that gives you basically the construct of what we have inside our vMix preset for everything. So very simple preset structure. But let's look at how we are actually working with this. So if we go over to the scripting side here, let let me pop down here. So what we're going to be doing, the basic premise of this is that we're going to set everything up where we initialize the bar and the counter overlay to slide that all the way off the side of the screen. We start the video playing, put that overlay back on, and then we position that overlay using something very similar to what we did in our last show, where we're just doing the pan X position. And so we're doing it to sort of -2, slide something all the way off the left side of the screen in pan X. So we're taking care of that. And then we're managing all that in the script to say where should we position both the title bar, both the progress bar, and the counter that's overlaying it. So let's get into how we did that. So I mentioned we're going to talk about the duration of the video and the position. And that's information we're going to get from the vMix XML, basically the state of vMix rendered through XML. And then our calculations are going to be percentage and sort of our offset. So the percentage will be how far along are we from 0 to 100%. And then we use that percentage to calculate how much of that -2 to 0. 0 is sort of fully centered back fully on the screen, -2 fully off. We just use that to calculate that percentage, that positioning that we need. And then one of the other things to keep in mind is that we don't want the numbers to slide fully off the screen on the left-hand side. So what we do is we have to make sure that if it goes below, the positioning would go below a certain value, essentially sliding that number off the screen, that we make sure it doesn't go below that. And we cap it at a certain low and a certain high value to make sure it stays cleanly on the screen. And so that's what we do with this counter offset, and that's why it's different from the bar, because the bar just moves linearly across. The counter has to sort of stop at the front and stop at the end to make sure it doesn't slide off either way. So that's what we have set up there. And now we're doing the first initial load of things. So we take and we load the vMix XML to get the current state. And we're just pulling the duration of the video. So we know this is exactly how long this video that is selected is going to play for. And this is worth pausing on because we're doing a little bit of XML work here that we hadn't really done before. So I just wanted to share exactly how we're extracting this. So if you remember, when you have XML elements, there are the core elements and attributes of those elements. And what I'm going to do, just so you can see, is I'm going to go over here. I just had this is the vMix XML that we're looking at. And this is specifically the input that we're looking at right here. So what we want to do is we are looking for an input that is named video. So that's sort of in the script what we're doing. So we have that where it's basically we're looking for the title. And in this case, we're looking for the short title. And I'll talk about that in a minute. We're looking for sort of, you can say, what is the position of the video? So this is, hasn't been refreshed here, but this position is saying where along the plane of the video is the playhead in the video. So position is the first thing we're pulling, and duration is the second thing. So how long is the video, and where is the playhead in the video now? And we're doing this title. But what we want to do, and this is why I wanted to just point out these elements in here, is all of these are attributes that are sort of sitting here associated with this input. And so if we look at, let me sort of pop out of here and go back into here. So if we look at what we're doing, we're coming here and we're saying, let's look for an input. We're just walking through the XML, vMix inputs, and let's look for the specific input whose name is video. And now because this is a video list, the full title, where it says just title, will also include the name of the video playing. And that can be confusing because we don't really know the names of all the videos that are in the list, and we don't want to because that would make it too specific. So what we are doing is we're using the short title. And the short title is just the name you gave that input, video in this case is what we did here. And it excludes all of the other things that it appended with the actual video name. So this makes it easy for us to find this. And this is sort of what we've had typically when we're doing things. We sort of look for something and then just pull that value out from the XML. But because we're looking for a second attribute, we're using the short title as one attribute to find the right input. But then we need to pull the value, in this case of the duration, and we're doing that by just saying slash after this and saying at duration. So this is saying go to this place in the XML which has the attribute short title equals video and give me the attribute at duration. So this is how we pull out these types of things. It isn't something we've directly done before, but there were these two elements in here that I thought were really worth focusing in on. So we have this for that, and we also did it just so you can see this is the exact same thing we did for position. We're not using it here right now, but just wanted to sort of show this is exactly how this would work. So with that pulled out, we're just going in here and we're playing with turning the overlays off, making sure that the video we want to play has stopped and is back to the beginning. That's what the stop and the restart do. It resets the video position to the 0 again. And now we're sliding everything off of the screen. So we're taking the progress bar itself and then the counter overlay, and we're sliding those off the screen. And then what we're doing is we're saying, turn the overlay on, wait a moment, and then start playing the video. And at that point now with the video playing, we're going to jump into a loop that's going to let us pull everything out. So before I get into the loop, just have a couple more comments here that I wanted to talk to. So we have Michael. Michael, great to hear from you. And Michael had asked that we do something which could show sort of a pre-show countdown. So after we do this component, we'll show how we would apply the same thing to the pre-show countdown. So Michael, thank you for joining. It's really great to see you again. And we have Jason Klee. So Jason's saying, I understand a percentage is easier to calculate, but is it possible to format it for time remaining? Something I would like to make for custom multi-view full screen displays. Actually, Jason, that's perfect because that is exactly what we're going to show in the second part of this. We're going to show that for a pre-show where it's counting down to the show starting. So you'll see exactly that. It's basically the same, except it's instead of time remaining kind of thing, it's just sort of a countdown, but it will give you almost identical results. And this will show you exactly how to do that. Okay, Michael, great. I'm glad you're here to share with us then. Okay, so let's go into the loop here. So in the loop, we're going to be pulling the state of this video that's playing. So the most important thing for us is you always have to remember you have to keep reloading the vMix XML because it stays static. And this is the only thing that actually loads the latest copy. So inside this loop, every time we do a loop, we are going to load that vMix XML to get the latest state of the video playing. And like we did before, this is how we are pulling the position of the playhead inside the video. Since we already know the duration, because that isn't changing, that's static, we're just saying the bar percentage is coming with video position divided by video duration, which is pretty straightforward. That's just what percent of the whole is this that we're working with. And so the way we're doing that then is once we calculate that percentage, we come back here and we are taking the GT title. So basically the title with the progress counter that we had when we went through the vMix session, we're taking that and we are changing the text that what was originally that 100%. We're changing the text for that and saying, okay, convert the bar percentage times 100 to an integer. And the reason we're doing that is it's a floating point up to this point. And when I convert it to an integer, it sort of rounds it to the nearest whole number because we just want percentages showing 1, 2, 3, 4. We don't want all the sort of decimal places after that. That would just be confusing. So we're converting this to an integer after multiplying it by 100. So like 0.63, which would be 63%. We multiply the 0.63 times 100 and then append a percent sign to it and convert that to a string. So we're just converting a simple decimal percentage from 0 to 1 into a numerical sort of 0 to 100% type of thing that you would see with the percent sign on the end. And we're changing that text in the GT title. And that's one of the other things that we have the ability to do, is to do that type of, to do that type of change. So with that changed, we're then turning around and saying, now let's do the same thing. You know, we have this set. Let's now decide how we position based on that percentage, which is where we're positioning the bar. And again, this is stuff we covered in our last show with bar charts. And we are panning the X pan for the bar this way. However, now we also mentioned that for the text that we want to associate with that percentage showing, we don't want to slide all the way off the screen on the left-hand side, or have part of it truncated on the right-hand side because it's sort of centered in that box. So what we're doing here is we just turn around and say, if the bar offset, that's the pan X we're going to do, is less than, and I just sort of did calculated numbers here visually. If it's less than minus 1.93, bump it up and set it to 1.93. And if it's greater than 1.8, just keep it at 1.8, and that sort of locks it on at both ends of the screen, so we always can see the full number of digits for the percentage. And that's all we do. And with that, we just pan correctly for the counter. We sleep for 60 milliseconds, update. We then check if the video position equals the video duration, which means we're done. So we've just finished. If we do, we exit the while loop. Otherwise, we just go back and keep looping. So that's all we're doing here to make this type of process work. And after it's done, once you exit the while loop, I just sleep and then take the overlay off. So it just sleeps for a second and takes the overlay off, which is what you saw, where it stay up there with 100% for about a second and then peel down. You could do anything you wanted here. This is, again, we're sort of showing this as a general construct here for how we would want to do this. And that's basically all the code here that we need. So we have all this posted up online, so it's in the link in the show notes. So it shouldn't be an issue with working through any of this, but it is fairly straightforward. We didn't do a lot of complex math or anything here. But what I'd like to do now, let me open up another session. So this will just take me a minute here. I want to show how this would look if we were doing this for a pre-show, which was the other thing where you have certain, you want to see things in terms of time and with number count, time counters versus just percentages. So, well, this is loading up. Just let me, we have a couple more comments from Michael here that he says he always hears when programming with loops, he can't finish impossibly dividing with 0. Even when he knows it's not possible. Yeah, I understand that. And I think something that you can always do is you could actually just have an emergency button to stop. There is inside of vMix the ability to stop a specific script. So if you wanted to do that, or stop all scripts, in fact, you could just set up a emergency shortcut that says just stop all scripts if you were worried that something could go off in the middle of a production. But typically this shouldn't be that big a deal for most cases. And I think a lot of it is really going to be where can you do something that could cause yourself problems, like looking for an equate when you should do something sort of like greater than or equal to, or less than or equal to, so it covers a bigger area. But those are sort of simpler programming things, and that's not something you'd normally, have to worry about. But for the most part, if you just have something that has a logical conclusion, they will just fall out. And the code has worked very well typically for most of the things we've worked with. Okay, so let me see. Okay, so I just made sure I covered everything that Michael wanted there. So let me sort of jump in here now and show what we would do for like a pre-show countdown. And I have this set up here. This would be the world's shortest pre-show. I have this set up so it would be basically 20 seconds. And 2 seconds before it ends, it puts up a message that said, show starting. So let me show you how this would work here. So I have this set, and now you can see what I'm actually doing is a countdown timer. So this is here with, counting down from 20 down, to 0. And as the times are changing, you'll see when it hits 2 seconds left, you'll now get the show starting now, and that's falling off. And then when after that's finished, it just goes back to our live session. So if you look at what we have here for the vMix preset, it's really very, very similar here. So you can see as we go along here, this is sort of our live shot. This is our video list. It's just we picked the background. This is a sort of easier background to put a overlay on top of. We have the bar and the progress counter, the same thing. This is just that bar image. And this is a progress counter, but now instead of giving it a percentage, we're giving it a time countdown. And then we just have sort of everything set up with, this is our overlay, which shows the name and the show starting now. And this is everything composited together as layers. Very similar to what we had in the other case. But this time, where just added this extra text over it, and we have a new background with a live video to switch to at the end. So that's basically what we have here, and a lot of the code in the script is going to be pretty similar. So let's look at the pre-show timer in the script then, and go over here. So in here, a few differences. Now we are basically going to specify the durations for things. So how long do we want the pre-show to be? And we're going to set our clock. Where are we since the start of the pre-show, what we're counting through for the pre-show. And we're also setting the time where we want to put up that sign that says, show starting now. So we set those up. These things are pretty much the same that we had before. And here, we're actually initializing everything we want. And I'm just doing this in milliseconds. You could make it more complicated by letting you input, hours, minutes, seconds as separate things. I just, for the sake of simplicity with how we structure things, I just did it this way, but it's not hard to do it the other way either. So with those things set, so we're saying it's 20,000 milliseconds, 20 seconds. The clock is at 0, so we're starting at the beginning. And at 18,000 milliseconds, basically 18 seconds into our 20-second pre-show, I want you to pop up the show starting message. And again, all the same basic stuff we're doing here, turning the overlays off, getting everything set up correctly for the pan X of the bar and the overlay with the counter, and this time a timer counter. And we, the other thing we're doing now is that show starting, which we had inside of our title. And if you remember, that was we had Streaming Alchemy show starting now. We're actually turning that off. So we do a set text visible off, which says take that text object inside our GT title and turn the one that is named starting.txt, turn that off. And that allows us to have it preloaded there and then just switch it on inside of the title, as opposed to having to layer on another title and make the layer visible or invisible. That's sort of a simple way to do that, where you can just take any element inside your GT title and turn it on or off for visibility. So at that point, all we're doing is we are basically switching to our pre-roll, where we say take the preview input, which is our video with that background of the lines going up and down. We cut to that and we started playing. And then we turn the overlay on and we go into our while loop. Now the difference here in the while loop, we are not reading the time from a video. So what we're doing is we're basically keeping our own time here. So it's not going to be like 100% accurate, but it's going to be reasonably close to the time you want. Certainly, nothing that would, cause any problems to a viewer. They would just see it and be like, yep, that's the time. It's going to be really close. But so what we're doing is each loop is going to be 50 milliseconds, and we're just incrementing that, and that's how we're managing our time. And let me show you, because this is something we haven't really done much with before, but we had the comment from, I'm trying to remember, Jason came back and said, how would you do this with time if you wanted to do something and sort of how much time is left in a video? And this is exactly how you could do that. So there is something called a time span. And a time span basically says, here is the time between two times, the span between times, the time span. And since we're doing this, we're just calculating that, we're doing this for milliseconds. So we say, what's the total duration of the pre-show minus where the pre-show clock is at? So that will tell us exactly how many milliseconds we want to convert as and assign as a time span. And what we're doing is, in this construct here, we're saying convert it to string using this format. So we have a method to string, which can apply to this time span from milliseconds, which is basically delivering a time span. So we convert that to a string, and this is the format. We want to do minutes. Then you have the slash colon, so saying that colon now should be inserted there between them, and then seconds. So we have 2 digits for minutes, a colon, and 2 digits for seconds. And we do that string conversion and assign that to the string time left. And at that point, all of these things are now very, very similar. We are setting the text inside our title, but as opposed to doing it with a percent, if you remember before we did that conversion times 100 and appended a percent sign, now we are just going and saying, now just take that percent text that's in there and just push the time left string that we just created with minutes, colon, seconds into it. And that's that timer that you saw moving across the bottom. And we still don't need the percentage to know how we are going to move the bars and position that sort of time countdown at the edge of that bar. So we have that there. We calculate the bar percentage, and we're doing all the same stuff. We're doing the exact calculation where we go between -2 and 0 to 100% off screen to 100% on screen for the bar offset. And we set the pan X. We also have the same sort of offset model, but we are adjusting it so the time doesn't slide off either side and making sure it doesn't go below those values or above that value. And then we do the pan X for the time count layer. In this case, we're sleeping for 50 milliseconds. And because we're keeping time here, we are just incrementing, saying the clock now is what the clock used to be plus that 50 milliseconds. So this is how we're timing this process. As I said, because you're doing extra calculations and other stuff in between, it's not going to be an exact time, but this happens really fast. So you're probably, within, milliseconds, over the full time of what you actually, would get for this. So maybe this is actually like 51 milliseconds or something, but it's small additions to the time. And that gives you your pre-show clock. And then we're just saying, if the pre-show clock is equal to pre-show duration, then we know we're good. So if I wanted to do things that were, because I mentioned this before when Michael was asking about, not falling out of a loop correctly. If I wanted to do this to make sure this would work, all cases, what I'd probably do is say, if the pre-show clock is greater than or equal to the pre-show warning, or the pre-show clock is greater than or equal to the pre-show duration. So these sorts of things now will make sure that even if I somehow it jumped past it, it would still know, okay, we're doing this function now and we're ending as appropriate. So all we're doing here is we're saying if the pre-show clock is now greater than or equal to pre-show duration, you can exit the while. And if, remember, we had that pre-show warning that we wanted to do to say when we want to say, show starting now. Same sort of thing here. All we're doing is if we have passed that warning period, we are now turning the text visibility on. And so you'll be able to see that new message that we put there. And then, that will go for the next like 4 loops, 2 seconds more. And we will, from there, we'll exit and we wait for a moment. And then we turn off the overlay and we switch to the live input. So very, very similar to, between the two of them. So this really didn't merit its own show, but I wanted to be sure that this made sense for people who wanted to use, as Jason was asking for, who want to use this countdown as opposed to simply a percentage. This will give you that. And you can use it for countdown. You can use it for count up, any way you want to handle it. It's just going to take a number of milliseconds, whether you want that as a total count or a countdown, and display that on screen as sort of time in a format that you want, a time string format. So hopefully that all made sense. This is, there are lots of different use cases for this. You can use this if you are having things like intermissions. You could use it if you're doing things around sort of church services or theaters where you have a lobby and you're giving people sort of a countdown to when, the next phase where the service is going to start or the show is going to start or whatever. You can do that. So you sort of can keep something on a large monitor in a sort of assembly area, some sort of lobby area, and then people would be able to see, okay, the next event that I need to pay attention to is happening with a certain amount of time. So definitely use cases there. It can also be things like Jason was talking about where he wants to set up something with a multi-view and you want to be able to put that in there. You could put that sort of timer countdown. And the same way that I could sort of turn text on or off, I could change text color. So I could go and say when the countdown was within 10 seconds, change it to yellow. When it's within 3 seconds, change it to red, and do things like that to make sure that, you're showing that this thing is about to end and giving that sort of warning in advance. So different things you can do. And that's because you have all that functionality in GT Title as well to let you do those types of things. So let me see. I think we have a few more comments here. So let's see. So Biz, I'm glad you found that useful, Biz. Thank you. I appreciate it. So Michael, cool. I'm glad that you like it. So you say so much better than DAZN countdown for the NFL pregames. Remember that? Oh yeah. I think what I was trying to do here was less about the visuals, just to be honest, and more about the concepts of how you can sort of structure this stuff. And then there are so many different things that, ways that you can present this, from bars to, potentially different types of rings. I haven't really worked through a good ring mechanism yet inside of vMix, but I'm thinking of possibilities for that. But yeah, there's lots of different ways to visualize it too. So this is saying the scripting is intimidating. I think the scripting itself can feel intimidating, but I think it really comes down to just start playing with it. Don't do it live, initially. Go in and just do stuff that you want to work with to try sort of back-end things that only you would see. And as you work with scripting, it starts to become more logical to you. And I'll be honest with you, a really good way to start would be almost to just not even write the code, but write sort of pseudocode to start. So in your head, you say, I want to do this, then this, then this. and it becomes logical to you what you want to achieve. And then you start filling in the actual code around those logical comments that you set up to say, here's how I'd like to do this. And, it's iterative. You'll go in and say, oh, I was thinking of doing it this way as I started to work. This would be easier. This would be more efficient. Or I wanted to add something else, so I got to extend this a little bit. But once you get started with it and do some of the more basic things, I think it shouldn't be intimidating to you at all. You'll just stay within your comfort zone and do the things you feel good about. I would typically recommend not just copying script from somebody else if you don't understand it. That way you always feel in control. You're not sitting there going, well, I'm just trusting this is going to do something for me. You sort of understand what each piece of it is doing. And that's why we post all this code, we put comments in it, but I'm always welcome if somebody, has questions about what we posted, just, send me a message or post it in the Streaming Alchemy page on Facebook, and we'll get to that, and try to talk through any questions you have. So Michael's saying the script that is uploaded here is so informative. It normally works out of the box. Yeah. So, I try to do that, Michael. So, I don't always succeed. I know some of my scripts have been less well documented than others, but I agree with Michael on this. So just play with it. And I think, you will get more comfortable with it. And then it'll be something that you'll just integrate in the way that you're most comfortable, that gives you the most, streamlined workflow that you're trying to get. All right. Well, thank you, Biz. I really appreciate you and everyone else who takes the time to join. And I know we haven't been as consistent with the things that I've had going on. So I'm appreciating very much that everybody's coming back and being part of the show. So thank all of you. Sincerely mean that. So why don't we wrap this up? We'll jump into the post show and I can answer any questions from there. So what our next show will probably be in 2 weeks. I'm not guaranteeing anything now, just with the way things have been. But what I want to make sure is that, we have a next show we're working on. And, I would love if you can join us, you would. If not, thank you very much for, joining us today. And if you'd like to hang out for the pre-show, we'll see you in a few. Otherwise, we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Take care, everyone. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our pre-show here. So this show idea came from somebody on YouTube that actually suggested in the comments that they'd like to do something different after watching our last show with bar charts, and specifically asking about progress bars and making a progress bar that would work. And so that was something that, sort of inspired what I did here. And it took some of the things from last time and hopefully extended enough to make this an interesting show on its own. Michael, thank you. I definitely, appreciate everybody that shows up for these shows. And I know you have a lot of different things you could be doing with your time. So that's, I am very grateful that you're choosing to spend it here with all of us. So thank you. But so one of the things that I've sort of said in the past, but if people, if any of you have ideas for very specific things even that I really would like to try to find a way to do this, just put them either as comments in YouTube, as posts inside of Streaming Alchemy on the Streaming Alchemy page. And we take these things and, we love doing something that sort of fits in, specifically with use cases that people have. We are not, outside of our show here, we do not really do video production as our business. So I definitely value that sort of input from people who are actually doing this as their main, occupation, because that's going to be much more strongly connected to real world requirements. Right now, I just sort of hypothesize based on things that I see from other people are doing. But definitely just post if there were very specific things you like, and we'll see if we can roll that into a show. So Biz says he sees it could be applied to call-in speakers with a visual lets them know how much time they had to speak. Yeah, I mean, things like that, are definitely there. There could be things, because I've sort of thought of this. If there would be ways that you could have somebody call in and record a comment or a question, so during some type of bigger live event, and you could actually give them sort of a countdown to say, here's how much time you have to record, and then actually to sort of scripting, do that whole recording. They'd see the time, counting down, and they'd know they would be able to wrap it up, in an appropriate amount of time. So yeah, I could see that, and I think there are some cool things that can be done with timers in general and sort of time-based scripting. So definitely looking at potentially doing some more shows that integrate time into some of the scripting triggers that I'd be using for having other things happen. So I think that could be a lot of fun things there. So thanks, Biz. Oh yeah, I mean, political debates is definitely another use case. Though as we all know, they don't usually listen to when their time ends. So they just talk louder. So, but yes, that I think in a well-mannered debate setting, that could definitely be something that could work. It could also be something, by the way, that you could automatically mute a microphone. So you could use something like this where they would see, and then at a certain point they're saying you have 10 seconds left, and then your microphone gets muted, and show them a mute. And show them that they are muted. So doing things like that as well. And, I think, there are definitely things, and these are sort of things I said, more time-based triggers. That's another great example of things you could do with that. So, all right, let's see. Yeah. So, yeah, and I just so busy talking louder. Yes, that is definitely what we've seen. Where that's how you overcome your time limits. Anyway, hopefully, yeah, make them respected. Absolutely, just turn off the mics. So, but that's I think these types of things are a lot of different use cases, and I'm glad that you guys are coming up with more ideas than I had initially for how to apply this. So that's a lot of fun to get that. So I was actually thinking of one of the shows, certainly at least before the elections here in the United States where we are, was to do a show on sort of setting up a preset for election coverage, so sort of do election night coverage and the types of things that you could do and show, which would involve everything from some of the stuff we did with charts, things we're talking about here with sort of having people come in with some sort of time limit. So there may be some stuff we'll pull together for another show specifically on an election night preset for vMix that really think could be a lot of fun to do. So if we don't have any other comments here or something. So Biz is saying, imagine an international speech and debate using this. Yeah, I think there are lots of things. So I know people that I know do a lot of things that cover local politics, things like school board meetings, things that are town halls and sort of local city township type meetings where you can have callers. You can have things where there are debates where you'd have different candidates signed. So there are a lot of things certainly on the local level that are probably within the scope of what a lot of people that are watching, the show, whether you're live or watching on the replay, would be doing. So yeah, I could see these things, but I also think outside of politics, just having these types of debates around ideas. I don't think our current society tends to dismiss, the deep thought and complexity that has to go into a lot of the issues we all confront. And this would be, a great way to sort of bring that out, to get a multitude of opinions with true debate and true intellectual analysis of things. So definitely love that as a concept, sort of deep down outside of the tech that goes behind it. So that would be something. So yeah, Michael, if we can put something together for a political debate, that would be really cool. We could certainly look at doing that. So let me. We don't charge money here. That's not our business. But I'll definitely look at what we could do to put something together. And Michael or any of you, if you have very specific ideas for what you'd like in something like that, just share them. Probably because the live comments go away quicker. If you wanted to share them in the Streaming Alchemy page or in the general comments after the YouTube video sort of gets out of live mode and goes published, that would be great, because that way I can capture that and make sure we get it all. Or you can always just send me a direct message through Facebook. I'm easy to contact that way as well. So, well, Biz, thank you for joining. I definitely appreciate you being here. And Waffle is saying, I just had a 2-day Congress with vMix and Click Meeting for breakout sessions. So very cool. Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that we can do, and a lot of external tools that can be integrated to do these types of things as well. So combine the core functioning in vMix with scripting, with other tools, and I think there's a lot of very, very cool stuff we can do with this. So, all right then, I think we've probably covered everything. If anybody has anything else, just get it up there quickly. Otherwise, as I said, I'll probably be on with another show in 2 to 3 weeks. And I appreciate you making the allowance for the less frequent timing, but we are hopefully going to get a season 5 rolled out, maybe a little bit later than we had planned originally, but we're still planning on a season 5 here, and we'll let you know when that's happening. But if I can see you the next show, that would be fantastic. Until then, be safe, be well. Take care, everyone.